Boys Woven sketch. You can see that I have the pictures that I need already on my 8.5 by 11 portrait pages. I've got my layers here, they're locked underneath my photographs. I've got my reference information there, and then I have my assets that I need over here. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in to the front aspect, and we are going to go ahead and start on this layer here. And I'm going to start up here in that high point shoulder section. I'm going to come down and create my armhole hook right here, which is very important. Come down straight. You can see that I have a slight curve here. And then I'm going to come down to center front right there. Pull out my anchor so that my curve looks smooth. And you can use the grid in the background to make sure that your lines are straight. And I don't start in this corner here because I want this to be my anchor point down here at the center front for my neckline, so that when I go to make my back, it's really simple. I'll go ahead and take that fill out so we can see what's going on in the background. The first thing we can see here is we have a shoulder forward. So I'm going to move this over to the side, add a couple of anchors up here where I need my shoulder forward. When I do it like this way I have the same exact information that was on my outline to begin with. This is a shoulder forward that's the same on the front as it is, the neckline as it is on the shoulder there. So just want to make sure that that looks right. Let's get it into position here. And then when you look close, you can also see that there is a single needle there. You always want to make sure you have your garment in front of you when you're doing your sketches, because then that way you can be sure that you're going to be following the stitches that you see on the garment. So we have here is a single needle. I want to point out that this here is a, where's the stroke information? A 0.75 stroke with a dashed line. It has to be this size. I've created a double needle as well because I know I have one on this garment. So let's go ahead and take that fill out from there and then just move that into place. It's really important that the stroke is the 0.75 or it will not show when you go to export as the PNG to stick it in your tech pack. So I have an armhole curve here. Let's just make sure that we get that into place. And with the curved lines like this, it's a little bit trickier. We're going to have to move some anchor points around to make sure that we get the aspect correct. And we do have the sketch right in the background so we can see it there, that it's in the right spot. The next thing that we have here on the side we see there is a double needle. So I'm going to go ahead and grab on my double needle brush that I've already made. Put that into place. Right along the edge. We make sure that it's long enough. Okay, and then here, next thing we have is going to be the center front placket. I'm going to go ahead and start with my line there and come down and meet my line that I can't see down there because my computer's slow. Slowed down somehow down here. So we're going to have to fix that later on. We can see it, but I think it's right there. There it is. Okay, so now we can see that on that placket we have the single needle stitch. You have to be careful here. If you don't delete the top and the bottom, it may end up showing. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that section of the line because I don't want it to show. And then move this one into place. We can see if we zoom in, if we got it both to the right and the left side of the button there, which we do have. So the next thing we'll do is go ahead and grab our button. I've already put the button and the buttonhole together here. So I'm going to Control C and then I'm going to click on the subject that I want it to be on top of before I hit Control V. Actually grab the line there, so let's get that out of place. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the first button position. I have my center front line to help guide me, and then I'm going to drop it in here. And once I copy it one time, I can hit Control D, Control D, Control D, and get the rest of them down to the bottom there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons on the body there. The next thing I'm going to start, when you're sketching like this and you're doing it in sections, is layering on top. So now this is going to cover anything that might not be correct here. I'm going to come to the same line there and then just come out to my other side of my placket, because the other side is the opening side and we will be mirroring this over to the other side. We're building it like this because we will be using this part of the sketch to create the collar up for another aspect that we have to have. Get rid of that piece that we don't need there. Move this into place. And then I'll have to adjust my anchor, so I'm going to zoom in for that. to make sure that I have an inside. You never want your stitch lines to be outside. Looks like I have a bit of a bulbous point there, so I'm going to smooth that out. Let's bring this in. Let's shorten that so I get my stitch line closer to the edge. There's that funny little point there. So I'm going to go ahead and group that together. Move it over to the other side. And just make sure that it's in alignment here with the placket opening, which is that black line right there, so I can see that it is. And go ahead and grab my button that I need to put on there. Control C, click on where I want it. Control V, it's a horizontal aspect buttonhole. So we're going to make sure that it's horizontal. And then the next thing I can see that I need to add is going to be the collar. So I'm going to come out here on the top, go past my collar stand, give myself a little bit of shape here. Come to my center front. You just want the least amount of anchors as possible when you're sketching, because when you want to reuse your sketch, if you have too many anchor points, it ends up easier just to start with a brand new sketch. So let's go ahead and drop that into place. We have, when we look at our sample here, we see we have a 1/4 inch single needle. So I can move that into place. Sometimes it's easier just to add an anchor point and delete what you don't want if the shape is something like that. Because when you start to move this in, it's going to change the shape. See how it changed it just slightly? Okay, so let's go ahead and group our collar and our stitch together and mirror it over to the other side. So now we have our collar on right and left. Now we're going to need our back collar and our collar stand, which we will want to be below that blue HPS reference line that I have on the page already. So I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the Control C tool to bring that bottom down, because our back collar is going to look something like that. There was the center point right there. So I know that I have a collar stand on top of this, so I'm going to go ahead and add my anchor points. I'll use the grid in the background to show me where to stop on both sides so I get it even. I see the middles right there. Give it that shape. And then let's go ahead and give me the edge single needle that I see there. Move that to the edge. Get rid of these sides. Move this down. Group this whole section together. Move it into place on the bottom of this collar. You can see I need to shrink it just a tad. It's going to be underneath so it won't show. And then let's go ahead and just move that to the back. So we want to make sure that it's below that blue line there. So let's go ahead and maybe move it down just a tad to make sure that it's going to be below. This part right here has to be below that reference line. So if we grab this down and match it up with the HPS, we can see that it's below. So now I have enough to show my back neck drop when I get to it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my body, let's get rid of that reference line now, and move this over to the other side. Mirror it. It needs to be a perfectly mirrored shape, always on the out and the front side, because you can never lay a garment down perfectly flat. So here it is. I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that it's to the back. Okay, so there is my front body, both sides. I can see I have my patch pocket here, so I'm just going to start with a square shape, grab the overall shape of it. Now we know we can round these corners by just pushing. Let's get rid of the dashed line. To the side. We know we can shape these by just grabbing on one anchor. Whoops. Get it back. Bring in the one side. Bring in this other side equally. Go ahead and duplicate the shape. On this pocket we do have a double needle brush, so we're going to grab that double needle brush. We don't need this top stitch aspect. Oops. Let's grab on that because it is a single needle on the top. move it into place. I need to reshape it, fit it in. So use the bottom stitch to show there, just a tad. There we go. Let's come down on that a little bit. And then we can see there that we have an edge single needle there across the top. We can just eye drop on here. And then we can duplicate that line here down where the hem is, the pocket frame hem. The pocket hem, I don't think there's a frame on there. And then we need to add the button. So Control C, grab onto my layer that I want to be on. Control V, let's move that into place. Let's go ahead and fill our pocket and see what it came out like. How the stitches look, that looks pretty good. The next thing we need is the bar tack. So here's our bar tack right here. I'm going to go ahead and Control C, copy it. Click on the layer that I want it to be on top of, Control V. You just need to make sure your bar tag is big enough that it shows bigger than the stitches, right? So there it is, it's completely visible. We have these two bar tacks on the sides of the pocket. So now here we see the next thing that we're going to add is going to be the sleeve. So let's go ahead with the sleeve down side first. This is created by a tuck right here at that point. So we're going to do this sleeve first, and then we'll take it over to the other side and shape divide. And I'm always fine with just grabbing the sleeve and putting it into the back layer. We move it to the back. We don't have to worry about matching that shape. We do have a double needle down here, so let's grab on that, put it in our double needle, move it into place. And then we have our cuff, approximately that size. Let's go ahead and rotate that into position. And when you're sketching like this, you're building it layer upon layer. So you can always go over things to where it's easier than matching them up perfectly. You can see we're a little bit wider than we need it to be. And on this cuff, we can see that we have two different needle types. One is the single needle. Let's get rid of the parts that we don't need. This one is a single needle down here. It's a 1/4 inch away from the edge. This one up here is a double needle, so I'll grab on my double needle brush. That landed perfectly. So here I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the other side now. Mirror it. Bring it over to the other side. Let's make sure that it's in the back. Let's check that top corner. Here we go. So now on this, I'm just going to go ahead and take the fill out so I can see what's going on here, because I want to divide this outer shape, the main one. So here we're going to go into the Pathfinder and divide and ungroup. So now we're going to grab this part minus that stitch and go ahead and mirror it to the right so you can put it into place there. I'm going to match it up with that corner on the top. I'm going to move this stitch out. That needs to be here. And we are going to need to elongate this slightly because we can see this didn't quite add in. So I'm just going to grab all of the sections here and move it to more like what was in the picture in the background. So it didn't quite happen nicely. So let's grab that. And there we go. So now the next thing I see is I have this sleeve placket, which is shaped like this. It has a point on the top, and then we can see that there is a single needle going around. Oops, I didn't duplicate the shape. There is the single needle edge on this particular one, getting rid of the part that I don't need down here, and moving that into place on one side. Let's zoom in so we can move these anchors in the right spot. When we look, we can see that the stitch stops up here, and then it comes over to the other side. Okay, we can group that. We know we have a button on this, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the button again. Control C, click on the layer that I want it to be on, Control V, And this is the smaller button, so we want to make sure that we shrink this slightly from the button that's all over everywhere else. So there we go. So we have that in the middle there. I'm going to go ahead and just grab all that together, rotate it into place. Match it up with our cuff, and let's go ahead and move this cuff to the outside. Know that it's going to be on top, and then we just need to duplicate this one piece right here and add the anchor points so that we can create the squared off cuff that we have. And we want to make sure that it's flush with the cuff here, because this is the opening edge. So let's just line it up, get it into place, and we see that's lined up there, so that's nice. Let's duplicate this, because we are going to move this in and this one down, because that stitch on the top opening part comes around and meets up here. And then we have the horizontally oriented button again. Control C, click on the layer that I want it to be on, move it into place and rotate it slightly. There we go. We just want to make sure that it's in the middle and close to the opening edge, which is where it is. Okay, so let's just go ahead and fill that to make sure that we've not missed anything. So there's our fill. We need to make sure that's moved to the back so we can see all of our stitch information. Let's go ahead and fill this piece. And then now I can see that I missed that tuck right here. So let's go ahead and add our tuck. And on that line, we want to make sure that it's this pointed one here, so that it looks like a tuck. Let's zoom in on it, make sure that it's touching the seam. Can't be floating in the middle. So there's our tuck, and that overall looks fine. Okay, we've got a smaller outline there. It's supposed to be a 1, and that's supposed to be a 1. Let's fix that. Okay. So here we've got pretty much everything except for the hem. So let's go ahead and look at that. Let's take our shapes and fill it. And you can see that it's not quite meeting here in the bottom. So let's zoom in and make sure that the bottom meets. So when we go to do the back, it'll work. Okay, so now it's closed. So let's grab our hem shape, because we can look at the garment. Whoops. And see that we have a, take the fill out, a single needle stitch along the bottom there. You can also see now that my placket line isn't in a very good position, so I'm going to move that down to there. I'm going to go ahead and move this over just a hair, so that we have a 1/4 inch on each side. Drop that a tad. Okay, so there's the beginning of the front. Somehow I got an extra button over here, so let's delete that. Okay, so now from here I'm going to create the back and that back drop there. So here's the beginning of the back, right from the front. We can go ahead and shape build, and because we put the anchor here, it's easy to move this up and create the back out of it, like in 2 seconds here, you can see. And then on the bottom here, we're going to need to drop this just slightly. I'm going to take it down to there. I'm going to grab the whole thing, and then move that back into place. Drop it to the back and make sure that I've got, didn't quite go long enough on that, so I'm going to come down just a hair. Move it to the back, and then from here I'm going to create my clean finished hem by grabbing all of the parts that we don't need first, and then coming up, taking the shape and duplicating it up. Go ahead and connect it. And I need to add my stitch line on it, which is a clean finished stitch. Go to the parts that we don't need. Move that back into place on the top. Go ahead and group that. And then we just want to make sure that it drops to the back with the back shape. So let's get it together and then move the whole thing to the back. Okay, so there's our clean finished hem. So from here, I have everything that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this over to create the back by mirroring it. I don't even need to resketch it. I can just mirror it over here. And then I'm going to start to take off the front information. Here's the button I don't need. Here's the bar checks I don't need. The pocket, all these buttons I don't need. Let's go into line mode. Remove that information. The front hem. Let's go ahead out of line mode to see what I have left. Okay, so on this piece here, ungroup it because I need the stitch, just not the shape. There's the hem stitch. There's no stitching at the back here. It's only at the front, this side stitch aspect. And then I don't need my shoulders forward. I'm going to still need the armhole curves. Okay, and then on my collar, I just need a hem stitch. I can see that my back neck is not quite lining up, so I'm going to go ahead and just move that up a little bit more. Okay, so then on my back collar, I'm just going to duplicate that line there and give my single needle that I need up there. I need that 1/4 inch stitch. See, it's a little bit too wide. So let's move it into place. And I've changed the shape. So I need to put that back. So it's looking like the 1/4 inch. Okay, and then now I need to switch the sleeves over because on this side is where the cuff shows. So let's just group that. We're going to move that over here. You can see it down here, there's the cuff opening. And then if I had this cuff already grouped, I could easily have just moved it over, but I didn't. So let's go ahead and grab the cuff and the placket, which I did group. So I'm going to group that now. Oops, I lost the stitch. Let's group that. And now I can move that over here. Get rid of that. This needs to go to the back. So you rotate that way. I'm going to go ahead and fix this small aspect there. Move this into place. And then come over and put this on this side. That's where it is. And now I need to get that tuck back. It's on this side. So make sure I'm using that pointed stitch there. And there you have it, the front and the back. So you can see how quickly you can make your fronts from your back. And that is your boy's woven shirt. Thank you.